Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Citrix GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Visit GoToMeeting.com and use the promo code TWiST to begin your free 30-day trial. And by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com. And by AWS Activate, the Amazon Web Services startup program. It's easy to start and scale your business with AWS. Visit aws.amazon.com/activate.
Hey, everybody. Today's This Week in Startups is a very important episode. I have Angela Benton on from the NewME Accelerator, which some people refer to as the Black Accelerator here in Silicon Valley. They've been doing it for 3 years. It's an accelerator for people who are not represented well in Silicon Valley, women, people of color, Hispanics, et cetera. And Angela Benton has done an amazing job running this accelerator. We meet 3 of the amazing companies from it, and we have a really raw talk about race in America and race and gender inside of Silicon Valley, which has been a very complicated issue. And it's a very sensitive topic and a touchy topic that most people don't want to talk to. And it's a really raw, important discussion. And I hope you listen to this episode and I hope you send me feedback and we can all keep moving the ball forward on this very important issue of diversity, which we all want to solve today on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Startups. I'm very excited about today's program because we are going to talk with the NewME Accelerator, and I've been waiting to have them on the program for about a year or so, and I became aware of it, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, and there's been a big debate, and interestingly, I've been part of it, about race and gender in technology and society in general. And I'm a white guy, who grew up in Brooklyn, so I have like a certain opinion about the world, but I've learned over the last couple of years, my opinion gets taken a certain way when I speak out publicly because, let's face it, I'm a kid from Brooklyn who made his own way in the world, and I view the world through those lenses. And I've gotten myself into unbelievable amounts of controversy and trouble talking about the fact that I believe anybody, and I still believe this, and it's going to get me in tons of trouble right now when I say it, that anybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps in this great country of ours, the United States. Now, that does not mean that there's not a racism or bigots or jerks or creeps or other problems in the world. Certainly, we got massive amounts of problems in this country with Ferguson and other issues related to just young black men being shot in the streets in cold blood. It's insane. It's like, but we're talking right now about entrepreneurship and I guess you can't, it's like we're getting right into it, Angela. And this is Angela Benton, who is the CEO and founder of the NewME Accelerator. And I don't want to make this like a whole big, because the NewME Accelerator is bigger than race in America.
Yes.
But it's unbelievable that in 2014, this is a huge issue. I don't know. I find it unbelievable. Do you?
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
The conversation that we even, and I'll just speak particularly about tech, that we're even having a conversation about race and who has access and folks that are underrepresented in 2014 is kind of absurd.
Yeah.
You would just think that from the civil rights movement to now that there would have been so much progression.
Of course. And for some of us, I think, certainly the last couple of years, watching what's happened in terms of Ferguson and Zimmerman, and a lot of these cases, I think I was in a little bit of maybe disbelief about how dangerous it is to be a young black man in America. I'm in shock at were young black men being shot in cold blood all this time and we just weren't covering it in the press?
Yeah. Trayvon Martin, Ferguson, those are stories that are happening every day. So it's not, thank goodness, because of Black Twitter, it's forcing people to
confront it,
for confronting it, acknowledge it, make it, make people answer.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, it's still not safe for African American men walking on the street with a pack of Skittles and a Sprite in their pocket.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kid goes to like go see his grandma or whatever. And
Yeah.
like he gets just murdered.
Right.
I mean, so we can't separate these things, but the NewME Accelerator, you started this. Why and when and how?
Sure. We started in June 2011. And it was one of those things. Y Combinator was very, popular at the time, and we were wondering why there weren't a lot of African Americans that were, I guess, getting any shine or love or whatever.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it, Jason, I was on This Week in Startups a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember what year. But anyway, I called in, and I was like, oh, my God, I'm on This Week in Startups with Jason. And I had a site at the time called Black Web 2.0.
I remember.
Yeah. And so my question, yes, my question to you was if there was a market for that kind of business, given, your work in the past. Anyway, part of the whole mission was to highlight entrepreneurs that were African American that were doing great things because it just wasn't happening. You did not see it on TechCrunch at the time. Mashable only covered tech. You didn't see it on there, and so that was the purpose for it. So from that work, we really just wondered why aren't there more successful African American entrepreneurs, and so we decided to start an incubator. And it was interesting because there wasn't one at all.
So there's no incubator, and some people. So I guess the question I have is, did you come to a conclusion that the press wasn't covering it, or that there weren't enough, or both?
Both. It was several things. So the press wasn't covering it. I guess my network, I knew a lot of minority entrepreneurs, but even then, there were no access to resources, capital, of course, and even mentors.
Yeah.
Something very simple like, how do I do this? Once my business gets to this stage, how do I scale it? Or how do I form this partnership? So those were the things that were missing. And by coming here, we were trying to put ourselves directly in the middle of the ecosystem to get access to that.
And you decided we're coming to Silicon Valley and doing it here.
Yeah. You were one of the first supporters. Matter of fact, at South by Southwest, you were like, just rent a house, go on VRBO, and that's what I did.
Really? I remember that conversation.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Because and to a certain extent, I think people look at the Valley and they think, oh my God, it's an old boys club. It's an old white boys club. And so people are like, well, Jason, you're part of the old boys white club in Silicon Valley. And they would say this to me, and I'd say, I've never lived a day of my life in Silicon Valley. I lived in New York and LA. How am I part of that?
Right.
Right. And what people don't realize is anybody can really be part of this. It's not like there's some gate that says like nobody's allowed in. And in fact, the majority of people here are complete outsiders who came here.
Yeah.
There are very few people who are born and raised in Silicon Valley and then started a technology company that became huge. Everybody is an import, and it's open to everybody. So how has it been since you started it?
So it is open to everyone.
Yeah.
However, you are judged by what networks you're plugged into. So it's a totally different thing if I am Angela, who grew up in D.C., and I decided to move here trying to make my way, and I come here, and I'm the same person, but I know Jason.
Yeah.
And now I'm plugged in, and all of a sudden I can get meetings. You can
start on second base or something.
Yeah, people take me seriously. So when you have a certain demographic that doesn't have access to that, whether it's women or minorities, they're already starting out kind of behind the eight ball.
Right.
And for many founders, those networks might look different. It might be they went to Stanford or Harvard, or they worked at Twitter or whatever. But if you're not plugged into that, then you're kind of starting from scratch. So
now there is the counter argument, which I'll put forth, which many people have debated online, including all of us, which is if you have skills in making an app, like let's say you're an iOS programmer,
sure,
or you're a Ruby developer, one of those really high in demand skills, it does not matter if you are a man, woman, transsexual, gay, straight, asexual, bisexual, whatever, or what color your skin is. Do you agree with that basic premise or not? Do you think there's discrimination in this industry against people who have the skill?
First off, I think the discrimination is not overt, personally.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think the industry focuses too much on having technical skills as a way to be successful in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know running a business, you can't just be technical.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically for minorities, most of them aren't technical.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're not hustlers, that they're not entrepreneurs, and they don't know how to get something built, which many of them do.
Right.
But because they're not technical, there's this perception that you can't be in tech, or, you don't have a CS degree, or... I mean, that's BS.
Which is ridiculous because I don't have one. And
that's what I'm saying.
Most of the people, I mean, Nick Costello is a comedian, right? Like he runs Twitter.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not developers. But this developer culture was really a Y Combinator Facebook thing, to be totally honest, because Y Combinator took the approach of if you have only founders who are technical, they'll always be independent of having to hire a developer. Therefore, the cost is going to be so much lower.
Right.
And the number one issue any founder has, if they're non-technical, is getting technical co-founders, right?
True.
So it was a clever move on their part, but I do think it did create a barrier where, hey, a female founder who's not technical, and there aren't a ton of the technical female founders or a ton of technical Black founders or minority founders yet,
right.
Although I do think that's changing.
Yes.
Because a lot of those communities are getting very focused on it now.
Yep.
How much of all this is a failing of the education system in your estimation? Because the school systems I know in New York, and you grew up in D.C., have done a horrible job around computer science, math, just sciences in general, engineering. And so if you went to public school, which you probably did, if you were in one of these groups, or the majority of people do go to public school, you're going to be just so far behind.
You will. However, I don't know. I might catch a lot of flack for this, but I kind of feel like that's a cop-out.
Huh.
I really do. So... The public school system, and even going to college, like, yes, you should have access to great education, obviously, but it's still up to the individual if they want to pursue something that's technical. Not everybody is technically inclined to begin with. Right. So to say that, well, this is a pipeline issue. We have to go all the way back to kindergarten and make sure that folks are educated in STEM. Like, I agree, they need to have access to it, but that's not the end-all, be-all. And in order to see any kind of change in the industry, that's pushing any kind of real change out at least 10 years, because now we have to wait for folks to graduate.
Right. It really does kick the can down the road and be like, hey, it's not our fault. If nobody knows how to code, it's not our fault. Right. All right, when we get back, let's talk about how the first couple of years of the accelerator went, the NewME Accelerator, which you can go check out at, what's the domain name? NewMeAccelerator.com. There you go. And you can follow Angela at abenton, Benton, on Twitter. You can follow me at Jason. And when we get back, let's talk about how the first couple of classes went and continue this discussion on, hey, if we've got problems in STEM and math and science and education, all this stuff, what are the ways to actually get in?
Sure.
Like, what are the ways to hustle your way in to the tech industry when we get back on This Week in Startups? Good start.
Here we go. Back. In 3, 2.
All right, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. Angela Benton is on the program. She is the founder of the NewME Accelerator, which is some people refer to as the Black Accelerator.
Yes.
Which you wouldn't be offended by if people said it, but it's not exactly accurate, right?
Yeah, we're not the Black Accelerator. Right. I mean, we're an accelerator for underrepresented minorities and women, so folks that just don't have access.
Which is amazing that you created it. You came here in 2011. You've done a couple of classes, 4 or 5?
Yeah, 5.
5 classes. And, when we left, we were talking about, hey, there is this pipeline issue of not enough, let's say, young girls getting into computer science for whatever reason, and teachers dissuading them, in fact, according to some studies, and the public school system's breaking down in this country. What are some hacks to get into the business if you're a non-technical founder? Because you've been studying this and the bias and Y Combinator, and I don't think Y Combinator is a racist organization anyway, but I do think that they have a certain model that's worked for them, which is technical founders, which then I think created the appearance of them being maybe favoring a certain demographic, Asians, whites, and Indians, let's say.
Well, the interesting thing about kind of the whole accelerator market and or bubble is Y Combinator has been so successful. everyone's just trying to create that same thing instead of coming up with their own model.
Right. I see.
Yeah. And so that's how you end up getting a whole industry that says, oh, we are only looking for technical founders.
Right.
Oh, you have to come from this network. Oh, you have to have 3 people on your team, and one of them has to be, have experience in finance, technical, and, a hustler.
Right. They're immediately like cutting people from the team just based on criteria that maybe doesn't make sense.
Right.
So what do you think are other ways to hack your way into the industry if you're not technical? What have you seen work for people?
So what has me excited about all of our founders is they are extremely focused on building a business. And so that means a lot of different things to a lot of different folks. Not all of them are trying to raise venture capital. And so we might be working with a business that, wants to be a $20 million business. Y Combinator's not going to look at that. Andreessen's no one's looking at that business, but that business can be life-changing for that entrepreneur and that community. I'll take that business any day.
I'll take a $20 million business, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
If you raise $50 million in venture capital, that would be a huge failure.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you have to figure out where the goalposts are.
Exactly. And so what we do is we work with entrepreneurs coming in, helping them figure out what kind of business they want to build first. And then after that, we are trying to help them get there. So most of the entrepreneurs are focused on generating revenue day one. I mean, they're validating their product, they're building a product MVP, the whole lean principle, but then they're making money. So they're not really focused on purely user growth and then getting enough user growth just to raise money.
So you've looked at the situation and said, here's a model for our accelerator that could be sustainable and could route around some of these issues that you see in the market, which is revenue, like real money.
Yeah.
So the businesses might look not as ambitious as some of the Y Combinator ones, but maybe the chances of failure go down because it's a little bit more revenue based.
Exactly. So they're around for longer, but then also since we're impact driven, we are measuring the impact that the entrepreneurs are making, but then that we're also making. And so for us, it's important to not just have businesses that are generating money, but that are also impacting their communities, that they're hiring people, they're creating jobs. So it's not a failure for us if someone builds a $5 million business.
And when you look at the business, what impact does product design and being like, say, a user interface kind of executive, let's say, or CEO, founder, have? Because it seems to me that anybody could learn user interface in under a year. Anybody can start using Balsamic or InVision or Photoshop or any of these pieces of software in weeks to months just by going online and getting a $25 a month, Treehouse or Lynda subscription. Do you see a lot of that happening now? And do you tell people like, hey, this is a good way to get in is to be like the director of UX and the product person?
Sure. Well, I'm biased because I have a background in design. So I'm particularly keen on entrepreneurs who are also design centric. Some of what we've done, so we've taken our kind of 12-week model. We've actually built a platform that gives people access to it around the country as a subscription service. Part of what we do on that is say, okay, you're at idea stage. This is your product. Now you need to build, a wireframe. Most folks, they don't know what the hell that is.
You say wireframe, they're like, what? Where do I get the wires?
Yeah, exactly. They don't know what that is. So for us, we're not creating pure content. We are curating content, organizing it, packaging it, and say, this is where you need to start.
And so you have a couple of people taking the program and living in the house. You still do the house or no?
Yeah, we still have the house.
Wow.
It's down on 3rd and Bayview. So our last cycle ended in August. We started in May. And what was interesting about this last cycle is we selected founders that were on our platform. So this actually gave us a chance to kind of work with them a little bit more rather than just purely accepting applications. That's another thing that I learned that didn't work for our model. Everyone accepts applications. And a lot of times when you're meeting entrepreneurs in person, they're totally different from their application.
So you have to meet with them in person, you believe. And then getting them to go through NewMeAccelerator.com before they actually join the physical location is a good step.
Yeah. Well, what we look at it long term. So we're building a relationship with them. So we're working with them for several months on the platform before they even come out here so that they're already more prepared by the time they get out here.
What is the culture like, would you say, in the Black community with women in terms of entrepreneurship today? Because
sure.
a lot of people were, sort of, I think, in a very biased and racist way, saying like, there's not a lot of like entrepreneurship in that group of people, right? And you're making that big like smirk, like I am, like because I grew up in Brooklyn, and like I watched as an example of probably second only to the technology industry, one of the greatest entrepreneurial stories of the last couple of years, the hip hop movement, and watching what Andre Harrell and Diddy and Jay-Z and all these folks did was just extraordinary on a business level.
Yeah.
Like those were Harvard business cases.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars and then billion-dollar franchises made in 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, what's the difference between the franchise that Jay-Z created or Puff Daddy's created or Andre Harrell's created or, any of these? So how entrepreneurial is it? And how many people are applying? Like,
sure.
It seems to me that like at every event I have, some of the most driven folks are the folks who have the roughest starts and who are like, I want to get out of the situation I'm in,
we
which
love
was
those
me.
folks. Come to NewMe.
Exactly.
We love those are the folks that we want to work with.
Because they want it so badly.
Yeah, they do. There was a really good article in the New Yorker maybe a couple of years ago called The Business of Jay-Z. And it broke down his music career almost like a business case study.
Right.
It was a fabulous, fabulous read. Anyhow, hip-hop, the urban community, there's always been an innate sense of hustle, entrepreneurship, even actually, I would just say in the Black community in general. You mentioned something earlier where you mentioned Black women specifically. And
yes.
they're actually the fastest growing segment in entrepreneurship. And what's interesting is the platform that we've developed, we not only are working with more women now, we're working with more Black women. So, I mean, to me, of course, I'm looking at it from just my viewpoint. It's really just an access issue. And then also having folks feel comfortable to say, okay, this is my goal. This is what I want to do. How do I get there?
Right. And
getting the information without trying to make me look stupid.
So having to ask what's a wireframe.
Exactly.
It's so intimidating for people. Like,
right.
You're like, oh my God, am I going to get laughed at because I'm asking what that is?
Right. If you're in a room full of white guys, you are not raising your hand and asking, what is a wireframe?
Right, exactly.
You're going to go on your phone, tablet, whatever, and Google what is a wireframe.
Right. It's very interesting you say that because that was something I was sort of, when you think about like the non-overt racism or non-overt, the bad vibe that can go out sometimes.
Yeah.
Like Catherine from the Muse was on the program and she said she went to a Y Combinator event where they were recruiting and she's like a former model, I believe, and tall, and, very stunning woman. And when she went there, everybody assumed she was somebody's arm candy and there were no people, no women.
Yeah.
Forget about Black women.
Right.
There were no women 4 years ago at this Y Combinator event in New York. And I said, how was that? And she says, well, it was okay. And I was listening to it. I was like, okay, I think I can handle this. But then when everybody asked me who I was here with, and if my boyfriend was in Y Combinator or my husband was, that was kind of like, kind of killed it for me. And I was like, oh yeah, but you fought through. And she's like, actually, I was going to quit.
Wow.
And I was not going to apply.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, you think about that. That's the thing I think a lot of us who maybe, don't experience this. The idea of, I went to an event and people just automatically assumed I'm not in this. I'm not capable of this.
Right.
How could I ever be at this Y Combinator recruiting event as a woman and actually be starting a company? That is the troubling sign, I think, for Y Combinator, and I think they've made massive changes since then.
I've read a lot about their changes, which are great.
Yeah.
So,
what's it like for you? I mean, you came out here in 2011, and there's not one Black woman VC, is there? I'm thinking, I don't know one. I mean, I know a couple of women who are VCs.
Sure. There actually is.
Okay. Who is she?
But she's not, actually, she's based here for a few months, but she's from New York.
Okay.
Keisha Cash.
Yeah.
With Impact America Fund. She's actually been an investor in a couple of our companies.
Great.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like the fact that we can name one. Think about that. Like it's 2014, we can name one Black female VC.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It is.
There's a lot of work left. But how was it for you? I mean, when you came in, did you feel like you were not part of it? Did you feel like people, I don't know, just sort of compartmentalized you and disregarded it? Were people stoked? I get the sense some people were stoked.
We got a lot of support.
That's good.
Initially, not one person that we reached out to said no, they couldn't mentor. No, they don't have time. We got so much support. It was great.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign. But then moving out here, I definitely felt like people were like, oh, this is cute. This is cute. Keep running your thing. And it's, we're a for-profit business. We're not a nonprofit.
Right.
Like we are just like any fund where we want to see returns from our portfolio. So the fact that we were mission-driven, folks were just like, they thought it was cute. They thought it was kind of like a project. I'm like, it's not.
Yeah, when you put mission-driven with startup, it kind of like, you can put a little bit of a scarlet letter on it. Like,
so
maybe it's not going to be profitable or something.
Right. So that part was isolating. And then for myself, I always tell startups, when I moved here, I spent probably about a year having coffees, lunches, whatever, getting advice from people on my business and how it should be structured.
Wow.
And it was the complete waste of time.
Really?
It was a complete waste of time. Well, actually, not a complete waste of time. The one thing that I learned was everybody wanted my model to be like Y Combinator.
So everybody just said like, hey, just do what Y Combinator does. That's
exactly. Every single person. Just do what they do.
Right.
Stop recreating the wheel.
Right.
You need to work with more founders. You only work with 8. Y Combinator just had 150.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that I don't want to work with 150 entrepreneurs at one time.
No, talk about being spread thin. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So,
they've even pulled back from their scale. Yeah. There's too much scale there.
It's too much. Yeah. So it took a year of talking to folks to really take a step back and get back to why I wanted to do it. So.
Right. And what was that reason?
Really to make impact. Like, sorry, this shit's not right. Like, like there needs to be more African Americans, women, Latino, folks that aren't represented. This idea of, if I want to be in tech, I need to look a certain way. I need to fit into a certain mold. When really, tech is one of the most innovative industries there are. It's one of the most creative industries there are. Right. So it should be collaborative on all fronts.
It's very interesting you say this because I've had disturbing conversations and also like major revelations about the fact that a lot of the technology that has really boomed in the last couple of years has been Black Twitter, as you referred to it. And I had a conversation with somebody around Black Twitter where they were like, the hashtag phenomenon was so phenomenal in the urban community. And Twitter, I believe, and I don't have like confirmation for this, I won't say who told me this, but there was like an issue inside of Twitter around the Black hashtags because there's so many of them and they were so highly ranked that white people on Twitter were like,
I didn't like it.
I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Like, what is all these? I don't understand what these words mean.
Yeah.
What does ratchet mean? What does this mean? Like, they didn't understand what some of these colloquialisms were. So therefore, they're like, you know what? We're going to make the default your community is the hashtags you see. And so it's almost like Twitter's been segregated. And you're seeing not what's actually the most popular things, you're seeing what's the most popular amongst your circle.
Right.
Which in a way is targeting, but it's also in a way it keeps you from understanding what's going on.
Right.
Like I think white people and are protected from Black Twitter. Like I actually think that's what's happening.
Well, if that is the case, I definitely don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, African Americans, especially on Twitter, are the highest users on the platform.
And Instagram as well. Like if you think about Instagram, that whole platform was built by a lot of celebrities like Nicki Minaj. Like I follow her. She gets 1 million, well, maybe not hundreds of thousands of people like her stuff.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal how much those, artists propelled those platforms.
Yeah.
It's like the critical piece of the puzzle.
It is. And when you look at, I had a conversation with someone particularly about Twitter's corporate board and how there's no one on the corporate board that actually reflects the highest user base of the platform.
Yeah, there should be a Black person on the board of Twitter, unequivocally.
Yeah.
If you had a large, because it's disproportionate, right? I don't know what the percentage of Black people in America is, 10% or 50%. Like, what would be the percentage that is on Twitter or the usage of Twitter? I mean, it necessitates somebody be on the board who represents that group.
Right.
It's insane that it doesn't.
But we're going to catch a lot of flack for this.
I don't think so. I don't know. I think, I kind of feel like one of the things I think about race is, like, people don't want to talk frankly about it. I think people are even scared to say the word Black anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody says, like, Black Twitter, is that, like, make people uncomfortable? Like,
right.
Some people prefer African American Twitter or Black Twitter. I think you can say both of those things, and people like to understand you don't have bad intent in saying those things. And talking about the issue, I feel that moves the ball forward. And you've seen the flack I've gotten just even talking about this. Like, people are like, "Oh, well, you're a racist because," and I'm like, "Well, remember I said, like, paragraph before I say anybody can pull themselves up, if they want to and learn these skills."
Yep.
The paragraph before that I say, like, this has nothing. This doesn't mean before you come to Silicon Valley, the world isn't racist. There aren't, bad cops out there. All these, like, disclaimers, and they're like, "Yeah, but you said anybody can do it." I do believe anybody can do it.
Yeah. Well, what I love about entrepreneurship is I also agree anyone can do it.
Yeah.
I also agree anyone can do it. But you do need someone to kind of show you the ropes, give you the playbook, give you the access.
Yes. See, that's the key, I think, that you've gotten right. And I used to be a little hardcore about at the events, because I've been doing events for 25 years.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was like, listen, when I was 25 years old, I said, just pick the best person for the panels.
Yeah.
I don't care, race, gender, whatever. Just pick the best person. Who's the smartest person? Put the smartest person on stage.
Yep.
And I still believe that, like, you have the smartest people. But then you also have to think about, like, when I heard Catherine's, story about going to the Y Combinator, I was like, well, I don't also want people to come to my events and, number one, not be able to afford my events. That's why I moved to giving so many tickets away for free. And I always invite everybody from your organization to come for free or at a big discount, whatever. But you don't want people to come and only see white guys on the stage. It's like, well, this doesn't represent the industry. And also, it gives them that, like, oh, I can't do this. Like, it's only those people matter.
Right.
And so you have to sort of step back and say, well, what do we want to see in the future?
Exactly. It's about what people see. The biggest thing that I learned from the CNN documentary is it aired internationally. People literally moved here. They were like, "Oh my God, we saw you on CNN. Yep, I'm living in San Francisco now." Like, they needed to see that they could do that.
Yeah.
And not even that. We got emails from people in the Philippines, from people who were not even Black, but were watching Black in America and were like, "Yeah, I totally relate to this. I feel like I'm an outsider too." People from Israel saying the same thing. There's a problem if more than one group feels that way.
Right. I think that's the thing Silicon Valley has to confront, and also has to confront that there's some creeps,
Yeah.
and a lot of bad behavior that went unchecked for a long time. Sorry.
I like Iggy Azalea.
That's my new jam. Sorry, everybody. That's like you should yell at somebody for doing that on the show. All right. But also, I've taken a new approach. And I guess Michael Robertson on Twitter, who is like my, Michael Robertson, who he's the guy who did mp3.com. He basically, anytime anybody discusses race, he's like, well, if you have an accelerator and it, is for women, then that's degrading to women. It should be an accelerator for everybody. It's like that kind of guy who, like, everything is like reverse racism or whatever. And you're just like, yeah, I get it. What I've done now is I will meet with almost any female founder or any Black founder, even if I wouldn't normally have met with them, just looking at their project. And I guess that is like a reverse racism or whatever. The way I look at it is I want to support people who haven't been given enough support.
Right.
And so I always take the time to meet with female founders now, because I'm just like, you know what? People, and also people of color, it's like, there's not enough they don't get enough time with the people who, like you talked about networking before, who maybe can help them. And I know this experience because even as a white dude, the fact that I was from Brooklyn and New York and I talked funny, and I had to work that Brooklyn tone out for a little while, and I talked very, pleasantly for a while. And then I made a bunch of money, and then I could go back to talking like I was from Brooklyn. But I basically couldn't get meetings. I couldn't, talk to people. So I just basically say, you know what? My time is the most precious thing. Let me give some of my time and meet with people and tell them like, hey, here's how you do it. Here's the next steps for you.
Exactly. That is what is valuable. That's what entrepreneurs aren't getting at all. Yeah. And even if their startup sucks, they still need somebody credible to say it sucks so they know what to do.
So it sucks, and here's how to make it suck less.
This is not about coddling and making people,
For sure.
That's not what it's about. It's about access to, yes, your project is great. I'd like to, for you to pitch me formally, or this project sucks. Like, you need to do X, Y, Z in order to make it better.
All right, when we get back from commercial break, let's talk to a couple of your founders here on This Week in Startups. Stick with us. Yes, Citrix GoToMeeting. I love this product. I use it all the time. And if you're trying to keep up with your workload when you're constantly out of the office and in meetings, it can seem impossible. That's why millions of professionals use Citrix GoToMeeting, where you can meet with clients and coworkers and even new prospects without having to leave your desk. You're going to save a lot of time and a lot of money. It's very simple. You go to GoToMeeting.com and you can meet with anyone on their computer, tablet, or smartphone or your own, and you can talk face-to-face with HD video conferencing, which is flawless because it's on their private network. It's not like some free product that breaks down, it never works, and nothing starts on time. And the screen sharing and collaboration features are par excellence. They are the best. Numero uno. These are the gold standard, and everything starts on time. You can start a meeting on the fly, or you can schedule one in advance. You can see your whole schedule in there, or you can just open up GoToMeeting and say, start a meeting now, and then invite people and just tell them the little number. You just read the number to them. They open GoToMeeting and they type the number in, or you send them a URL. That's simple. I do it all the time, and I highly recommend it. And you'll work so much smarter and efficiently and take control of your time and resources. And you know what I do is I set up a room. I mean, I'm crazy about this stuff. I'll have two monitors. Like right here, there's two big TVs here, and in my other office, there's three big TVs. We will put 2 or 3 GoToMeeting sessions on, and we'll have another 3 or 4 people on, and then we can see, oh, this is the chat room, this is the product we're showing, and these are the video faces. So I do like really advanced stuff with it that is amazing. And you can get started today. Go ahead and sign up for a free 30-day trial. GoToMeeting is an awesome product. I've been using it for years, and they've been a sponsor for years. I take 15 meetings a week on GoToMeeting, maybe 10 to 15, a couple of times a day. It works flawlessly all day long for me. I love it. It's a great product. All right, let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. As you've been listening, Angela Benton is my guest. She is the founder of the NewMe Accelerator. You can check it out at newmeaccelerator.com. I highly recommend it. And she's been doing it since 2011. You can follow Angela on the Twitter, abenton. And I asked Angela to bring some companies on the program, and she was like, sure, I'll bring you some of the companies. So these are all relatively new companies. They're all, by definition, under 3 years old. But
Yes.
So Tamar Lucian?
Yes, Lucian. Good.
Lucian, okay, there you go. When you have a name like Calacanis, you have an obligation to do your best to pronounce people's names correctly. I put people through so much torture with my name. Okay, so Tamar, you are the co-founder and CEO of Can You Start?
Yes.
So what have you built, and show it to us?
Oh, very cool. So Can You Start is a hiring system. Right now, it is exclusively for people in the restaurant and hospitality industry.
Okay, something I know well. I grew up in it. I like it already.
What I found out as a recruiter is that hiring managers are extremely attached to the hiring in the restaurant industry. Mm-hmm. And if you are a restaurant owner, you're sometimes also the chef, menu curator, busboy if your busboy doesn't show up,
bartender,
hostess, bartender. You do everything. And what we're finding is that they spend sometimes up to 30 hours of their week just hiring people or saying, come in Monday through Friday between 3 and 5 to see me. Right. And me has a million other jobs to do.
Right. So it's incredibly hard. Hiring is hard for restaurant owners. I know this because my dad owned restaurants in Brooklyn when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And you're exactly right of the problem. Friday night, he's taking my mom out, and he gets a call. The chef was on a binge on Thursday night and, got hungover and now can't come to work, or this waiter didn't show up.
Yeah, and the menus are so specific per concept, that it's really hard to find someone at the last minute. What we also found is that most staffing platforms out there just cater to professional workers and not the wonderful people in the restaurant and hospitality industry.
Who tend to be working by shift. They might have 2 or 3 jobs. Got it. Okay, so show me what you built.
So I'm going to show you guys first the side that everyone loves the most.
Now, just right off the bat, for people who are listening, canyoustart.com is the domain name, and it's beautifully designed. Well done.
Thank you.
Somebody's focused on design. Good job.
I actually didn't know much about design and didn't know anything about design last year, and taught myself, and my co-founder, Kwame Ampim, taught me some things. And
how did you learn? How did you learn specifically?
I started off wireframing. I was introduced to a site called Balsamic, and doing wireframes that way. But I started off by hand, and they were horrendous.
Of course.
But they got a little bit neater and nicer over time. And then my co-founder, Kwame, taught me how design translates in code. So the more we started working together, and then the other element is click buttons, like, where to put buttons that people actually want to go onto your site.
Awesome.
So just a learning process.
Awesome. And you learned that all at the NewME Accelerator, which is pretty great.
Yes. Yeah. Angela is actually the one who introduced me to Balsamic. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. We were just talking about that before. Yeah. All right. So let's keep going. So you just clicked that you're going to get started.
Yeah. So this is a candidate. For sake of time, I'm just going to show you one that we created.
Got it.
Well, actually, a candidate created this. She's letting us use it as her dummy account.
Great. And so this is in production in the world today?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Okay.
So people do use this. It's live. It's available for both employers in the restaurant industry and job seekers. One of the things that was really important for us with the site is to represent all levels of the hiring and hospitality industry. So many of our competitors just represent chefs, celebrity chefs, and some of the high-end positions in the restaurant.
Right.
We really wanted to create something to tell the stories of someone who's a dishwasher who maybe wants to move to a sous chef.
Right.
And they can have a really cool online professional profile to help them do so.
Right. Prep chef, et cetera.
Yeah. So,
and the way people hired previously for this would be they would ask their prep chef
to just bring in a friend. Yeah.
And which is what my dad would do.
Yeah. And it didn't allow room or opportunity for just the general public to get into a specific restaurant concept that they want to. And minorities are sometimes disenfranchised. They kind of work certain positions. And
right.
So
absolutely true. I mean, it was growing up in the 80s. We had in New York, the Mexicans were dishwashers.
Right.
And the chefs were typically like white chefs. And then we saw over 20 years, a lot of the chefs became Mexican. They were working in the kitchen so long, they were able to make that jump.
Yeah.
I saw that firsthand. So let's look at the profile one more time here.
Yeah, so tech is one of those things that crosses all lines. No matter where you are, where you're from, it's something that's easily accessible to everyone. So we were talking about urgency, right? And it's hard to find someone who can work last minute.
Right.
They can update their availability if they can work anytime, daytime, nighttime. What's really great about the system is that the profile works both ways. It matches employers to job seekers and job seekers to candidates automatically, all through algorithms, no live person attached to it.
Great. So if I say, hey, I need somebody for Tuesdays, I'm not going to see people who work during the days. If I need somebody Tuesday night, I'm going to see the filtered folks. Oh, that's fantastic. And it's a beautiful looking profile page. So the person can come there and be like, okay, this person is possibly going to work for me. Yeah.
So our algorithms actually stack the work experience based on what the employer is looking for. So if you had worked at, the standard in New York, and that's the type of expertise that an employer is looking for, we'll stack the work experience first so the employer will see it to kind of put you out there.
So if I was searching for somebody who had done breakfast or brunch, it's going to be like, hey, this person did work at Denny's. Boom, they're up top.
Right, they're at the top.
They know how to do eggs.
Because, hiring people in the restaurant industry, especially if you're a chef, you're not necessarily a hiring pro.
Right.
So we make this very simple as being able to read a job seeker's
and
profile.
They can put a video pitch in, huh?
They can. And we even stole a little pitch technology from tech and explaining to them how they should do their pitch.
Look at that. Be specific, be concise, wordsmith, use your words wisely. Very good.
And then we also have a video tutorial if they'd like.
This is incredibly sophisticated.
Thank you.
I'm actually blown away. This is much more than I expected it would be because I remember this problem so well. how did you come to identify this problem?
I was in the recruiting industry for over 7 years, and I thought, oh, I'm a recruiting champ. I can recruit for anything.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine gave me a position that he needed, and it took forever. And I was like, is this what you deal with day to day? How would you hire if I wasn't around? And he said, I just use job boards where I'd pay, $20
Craigslist
bucks.
or whatever.
Yeah, Craigslist.
Now, is this on demand? So like if I had the waiter call me at 3:00 and say I'm not coming in at 4:30 for my shift, would I be able to like on demand get somebody in the restaurant by 4:35?
Yes. So the honest truth is it's by density. I mean, if you're in New York, sure, because there's just a lot of density of people. If you're in Wichita, Kansas,
do those people charge a premium, and do you take the money for the transaction?
We do not charge job seekers. So they get this really cool profile that's 100% error-free because our algorithms goes through and says, this looks like crap. You should change it and tell them what changes they should make. And then
the dishwasher, the skill set for the dishwasher or the sous chef, no disrespect intended, may not be to write a beautiful paragraph of prose.
No, they may not need to, but it's cool that they have an online presence when they're making that transition from one job to the other.
Yeah.
And then they can export to a PDF to take their profile anywhere that they want.
And do they charge a premium for last minute? So I was just thinking, when you see a good idea like this, it kind of gets you thinking. And Home Hero is actually a company I'm an investor in that does home care folks, but they collect the money and they sort of work on that process. I wonder if you could charge and say, hey, you know what? If you want a last minute server or chef, we have a group of people who we represent who do that and actually close the loop on the transaction. They could just order it and be like, you know what, screw it, $200. I need somebody.
Yeah. So
I have no choice at this point.
Exactly. That just-in-time pricing model is eventually what we want to get to.
Yeah.
But the need and the urgency of 115% turnover in the industry is really what we're trying to work to get down.
Okay. Yeah. So they have multiple problems. And how much do they pay? $25 a month? $50 a month?
Job seekers don't pay anything,
which is great,
for this, and they get the matches. But employers can pay $25 a month.
Oh, I guess that's good.
Just to sign up, or they can do they can pay $25 one time to try it, or $14 a month just for the monthly subscription.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and people are starting to subscribe.
Yeah, we changed the model from one-time payment to subscription because turnover is so high, and because hiring seasons are all over the place in the restaurant industry, depending on where you live. So they wanted the flexibility.
Because just posting to Craigslist once is what?
Yeah, and
$50 or $100 each time?
Each time to keep it on top of the list.
Yeah. Right, and so that's what they're doing. They're posting it every other day, so they're probably in for $300.
Yeah, and that's our major selling point.
Are you selling it too cheap? Maybe it's too cheap, I think.
This is like a startup discount.
Okay, all right. Well, I think my two pieces of advice is get paid, higher price, and then number two, I wonder if that on-demand stuff would be the next thing. How long has it been in market?
We've been around since February. We've been live since February.
And how much money, either in time, of you and your founder, or just money invested, does this amount of work represent right now?
Oh, that's a good question.
2 people a year, so or 2 people half a year, so.
It's the it's actually the 3 of us now. I'm so excited we have a salesperson.
Good.
But money, maybe $2,500. I mean,
you basically just sweat equity.
Yeah, we just sweat equity between him and I.
Yeah, so it's probably, you could say $150,000 all in. That's a lot of, because if you just took 2 people at $75K a year, all in, getting paid low salaries because you're startup founders. That's $150,000 in value. I have to say, if that was any Y Combinator, and I'm not saying this if you told me this is a Y Combinator, if a Y Combinator founder or a Techstars founder showed the same product, I would say, that's totally a Y Combinator or Techstars quality level, which is really I think commendable. It's really amongst you must have picked your best one to go first, but I know how that works. I have to put together a conference. I do the same thing. Right after lunch, the best one goes first.
Thank you.
But the dog's at the end. But very well done. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the program. And next up, we'll have another person come in.
Thank you.
Yes. The Walker Corporate Law Group specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs like you, like me, startup companies, and he doesn't kill you with huge bills. You can very simply ask him, Scott, I got an M&A thing. I got to do some IP. I got to do a terms of service. I got to do an incorporation. I'm raising some money. I do a convertible note, whatever it is. And he'll say, hey, it's going to cost this amount. So then you can sleep well at night and not grind your teeth and worry about how much money it's going to cost. I can tell you in the past, I've opened up, legal bills and been shocked at what I've seen. So go ahead and give him a call, 415-979-9998, 979-9998, or email Scott at Walker Corporate Law, Scott at Walker Corporate Law. The Walker Corporate Law Group does a great job, and Scott is a great guy. I've referred lots of clients to him, as people know, and he does a great job. And he'll spend an hour or two, I've seen him do it many times, with up-and-coming entrepreneurs, even if they're not clients. He just likes to hang out with entrepreneurs. That's his thing, just like it's my thing. And you can follow him on Twitter. Go ahead and follow at Scott Ed Walker, at Scott Ed Walker. Just a great guy, has a great firm, and they're doing great. They have tons of they don't have tons of lawyers there. They have an appropriate number of lawyers, but they have tons of experience, 10, 20 years experience. So he gets all these attorneys with a lot of big, law firm experience, and then they choose to work at the Walker Corporate Law Group because it's more fun to be at a boutique firm than this big firm grinding it out. And that's the great part about the Walker Corporate Law Group. Go ahead and email Scott at Walker Corporate Law, and let's get back to this amazing episode. All right, next up on our NewME Accelerator special, and you can go to newmeaccelerator.com and you can join the accelerator right now at this very moment. Yep. So you could be in Hong Kong, you could be in Miami, you could be in Paris, you could be in Brooklyn, you could be in San Diego, anywhere, and join.
Yes, we have founders that are in Beijing, Israel, the UK, several in Africa.
What am I going to learn? What happens? You have a seminar? Is it weekly seminars?
It's the traditional accelerator speaker dinners. We do those every week, and it literally is the same exact format. It's Q&A based. The founders ask questions, and they get answered. We do that for about an hour and a half every week. We do knowledge share sessions, which are our version of kind of peer learning sessions where the founders can say, hey, this is what I'm going through this week. And another founder will say, oh, this is what helped me out. We do those every week.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
The knowledge sharing session, I like that.
Yeah, and then we have the resources that we have. So, Wilson Sonsini is one of our partners, and we have all of the great stuff that we've been doing for the past 3 or so years.
Google supports you a heck of a lot.
Google supports us a heck of a lot.
You know what's amazing? Yeah. They support you, Google for Entrepreneurs?
Yeah. They were the first.
They do nothing for me. Isn't that unbelievable? Angela.
I'll try to hook it up.
Can you
I'll
help
try
me?
to hook it up.
Can you hook it up? I mean, like literally, I can't even get a phone call back from Google for Entrepreneurs. I do everything we do is for entrepreneurs, and Google for Entrepreneurs is Jason Calacanis, not so much. Yeah. I really think it's because I've been critical of them. I think that they blacklisted me. Seriously, I think I'm on their no-fly zone. Jason Calacanis is too critical of Google, therefore we're going to make him pay with the sponsorship. Here's a message to Google. Really? You really think that you not giving me a sponsorship is going to shut me up? Please. You know better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it might shut me up a little bit. It might make me a little bit more reasonable. Anyway, Rudy Ellis, did you actually live in the house, or did you do the online accelerator? Or both?
Online accelerator, the VR.
The VR.
Correct. Yep.
And how was it, in all honesty?
Well, still going on.
Still going on,
yeah,
good.
So just like Angela said, the weekly kind of check-ins on Monday nights, and then the founder talks on Thursday nights. Still going on.
And
it's continuous. It's not a 12-week kind of thing.
It's a pretty good deal, huh?
Yeah.
$35 or $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, the next version we'll have 3 plans. Right now it's $35 a month. So.
What's going to be the top plan? I want to know what the
$149. And so $149 is still accessible for most folks.
Of course it is.
Yeah. But
that's 10 hours of work.
Yeah,
you work 3 hours
dedicated.
a week, and then you can. It's just the thing. I honestly think that people are so. This is liberal people. Mm-hmm. I think I'm interested in what your opinion is, Angela. Liberal people are oh, poor people can never afford to pay for lynda.com.
Right.
And I'm okay, I grew up poor. Everybody I knew was poor.
You're a hustler. You will find the money.
$25. You'll find $25. I'll find $25.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say, literally, in the summers, we collected cans.
Yeah.
When That was the greatest moment for us in Brooklyn. When they said cans are 5 cents when you return them,
Yeah.
we were like, bring it on. We literally were
Right.
going through garbage cans in the park,
Yeah. Awesome.
getting together 50 cans, and we're like, this is great. We got 250. We can buy pizza.
Yeah.
You know, like literally could buy a movie ticket.
Yeah.
All we have to do is find 50 cans for 3 hours, and then we could go to the movies that afternoon.
Yeah, it's not about handouts. It's not about
Exactly.
handouts. Yeah.
Ridiculous. People are ridiculous. Anyway, okay. So Rudy Ellis, you created Joycaster.
Yep.
Show me what you built, and let's see.
Sure. So
Proof's in the pudding.
So here's our login screen. So you sign up for Joycaster.
Again with the great design.
Yeah. Tell them what Joycaster is.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, Joycaster. Oh, if I can sign in.
Always the rule of all demos, especially when there's 100,000 people watching, is you will get a typo. You will forget how to spell your
Fat
name.
fingers, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Joycaster, we are a live syndication platform. So
Okay.
we'll take your live stream and syndicate it to
There it
multiple
is.
platforms. So we're the
Whoa.
we're the Hootsuite of live streaming.
Oh, God, that's so genius. Andrew, you stacked the deck.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I need. Like, wait, you're saying I could live stream through Joycaster and then it goes to YouTube, Ustream, and everything else?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Where has this been?
It's been I've actually emailed you once or twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I get, the problem is
I
I
know,
get
I know
so
you do
many.
that.
This is a message to entrepreneurs. Like emailing me cold is like 500 a day. Best thing is to like go through a trusted intermediary. So, but this is something we have a TriCaster here with
Exactly.
2 computers hooked up to
Yep.
it. And we have to literally have $2,000 computers set up. And we used to have 3. And we would do 3 outputs into 3 video cards and have 3 logins and have to have the tech team monitoring 3 streams to make sure they don't go down and all this nonsense.
Exactly.
Log in 3 times.
Yep. That's the pain point we are fixing.
How did you even discover this pain point?
I've been a live streamer for the last 9 or so years. Worked for companies like XOS Digital, New Lion, mostly in the sports space.
Got it.
So there were clients that would need it. They had a need to send to multiple destination points.
Got it.
And so that kind of was the
And the APIs allow you to do that.
yeah.
And this saves you because you can do 1 video card and have 1 stream going. Oh, the other thing is bandwidth.
So here's a perfect example. 3 weeks ago, we were at the Streaming Awards. This is where the whole mark and so forth,
Right.
down in Santa Monica. They had a need. They wanted their streamers to be seen on 9 different YouTube channels, their MySpace channel, Snappy TV, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we did is we sent out 2 streams, one to Joycaster Primary and Joycaster Backup. And then
like
once
it.
it was there, we were able to syndicate it to all the platforms. So we're able to start the event, stop the event, publish the event, do everything from our dashboard.
And if you needed to put a lower third or something, do you do that yet?
No, so that's all still done at the kind of producer director level.
Got it.
We're just a conduit. So
what's really great about this for people who are non-technical or people who don't understand the streaming space is you might be in a location that has 5 megabit DSL line.
Exactly.
Or a 10 megabit cable line.
Yep.
And you want to get 5 streams going. So now it's a megabit per stream and then they start colliding and the audience is using this is 1 stream out
yeah. So what we do
to the cloud.
Yeah, that's where so you can use the infinite bandwidth of the cloud. So for the
Wow.
streamies, for example, there were 2 megabit streams. So we did a total of 15. So you can do the math. That would have been a DSL circuit, a DS3 circuit they would have needed.
Right.
Whereas they just run into 10 by 10 and we're able to do
I mean, I would need this, and literally to do this for my events, like to do it for Launch Festival and save the extra bandwidth cost,
Correct.
or
Yeah.
do other things. Like I would pay $500 for this for the week, or $1,000, because we wouldn't have to lug 3 computers, set up 3 computers, and it actually would. This probably saves 1 more person from being. They would need 1 less person on staff. And in fact, you couldn't do what you're talking about to go to 9 channels.
So you're-
1 person
you're
wouldn't be
validating.
capable of doing 9 channels.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a very weird edge case that nobody would know about, but the people who do know about it
Get
will
it.
bang their head against
Yeah,
the wall. And it's
yeah.
something that's going to come up more and more because if you think about it on an international basis, a lot of these events will become international and people will need to do it to the, whatever the China equivalent of Ustream is.
Yeah.
So which platforms are you compatible with?
So right now we have true API integration with YouTube Live, Dailymotion, and then we have a custom support. So meaning Akamai, the Limelight, the CDNs.
Got it.
So our next,
But not Ustream and Justin yet.
there are no more Justin.
Oh, right. Justin's
Yeah,
unplugged.
but Ustream not yet. We're in talks with Livestream as well.
Why wouldn't they allow you to do it? Are
Twitch, Twitch.tv as well. So these are platforms that we want to bring on board as well.
So would Twitch not want to support you because they want to keep all the streams to themselves and they don't want people streaming them in multiple places, or?
Well, it's really up to the user. So now if you give them an opportunity to actually make more money, so they're streaming at Twitch, but they want to dip their toe in the other platforms.
But can they block you from going in, or you can do it with the API pretty easily?
As long as it's exposed public API. Yeah.
And they all have it. So it's just a matter of time before you get Ustream and these other ones. And so how long does it take to do each integration? In terms of number of hours of coding and cost? Well,
the good thing is, so the beachhead was YouTube. So we did that. Once we got that and got some normalization in place for what we call things and so forth, the rest are pretty simple. So it's not that hard.
100 hours, 200 hours, 1,000 hours?
200 hours.
200 hours, okay. And a good developer costs $50 an hour. So it's going to cost $10,000 to put each platform on. What do you charge for this product?
So right now we have our focus was B2B, right? So we went to the Dick Clark Productions. We're doing events for them. Florida International University is a client of ours. So they pay for an annual basis.
Got it.
Subscription model.
And is it like a custom price for each person, or do you have like rack rate pricing? You don't have that yet.
We don't have that yet.
Thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars a year?
Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands of dollars a year. Wow. Now, you know who the big user of TriCasters are and of these streaming services? You know what one of the biggest is all across the South?
I'm waiting to hear it.
This is like the number one insider tip that you're going to absolutely love.
Go for it.
Mega churches. Churches.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that.
They all have it might be the number one use case, the number one and the number two use cases for TriCaster and Broadcast Picks, and I think now Livestream is trying to kill those two platforms with their streaming platform. Those TriCaster, which cost like $20,000, I think the Livestream one cost $12,000. Those video switchers.
Yeah.
Churches, because they have so many people who are invalids or old people, they can't get to the church, but they want to watch it. So now what they do is they get their laptop out, they get their iPad out, and they stream.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But they want to stream everywhere.
Yeah.
Because God has no preference on streaming services.
He doesn't care about the platform.
He just wants joy.
Yeah, joy. That's
what God wants.
Joy.
That's actually part of where the name came about. Exactly. Yes, you're spreading your joy.
Of course.
And, so
then the number two is?
The number
two?
Gamers.
No. For people who would buy those like TriCaster. Sorry, I didn't frame the question correctly.
Sorry.
So people who would buy the TriCaster, who else would want to have
athletic universities?
Perfect. You got it. So high schools, colleges, they all want to stream and produce. Like here's the basketball game.
Yeah.
So, but they don't have the money to buy like a satellite truck or rent it.
Right. Yep.
So they just get a TriCaster for $20,000 or a Broadcast Picks or a live stream unit. Or there's actually some software to do it now. You can do your own machine. And then they put a couple cameras out, and they can even be fixed cameras. So what other features does it have?
So what we can do, and I'll show you a quick demo real quick, can you?
Yeah, see it? There it is.
Good.
Stop.
So this is our dashboard. So I have right now on this other computer is the encoder. So if you see the delay there, that's me there. So that's your confidence monitor, essentially.
Gotcha. Yep.
So this would be your TriCaster.
Perfect.
First thing you do, you come into our application, and we will create a broadcast. So let's just schedule a quick event. So let's say this week in startup.
Perfect.
Test number 2. Let's give it a quick description. So if you've ever done any type of live events, you have a wizard you have to go through and create the events and so forth.
Yes.
So we've simplified that. And so this list right here would be basically your list of all the platforms you want to push your live streams.
Wow.
So I'm going to right now just select these 2 profiles, which happen to be YouTube profiles that I have preset. Okay.
So if I had my This Week in Startups channel, and I also happen to have a Jason channel for my personal one, and they put live streaming on it, and I had a Ustream channel, I could, because I have followers who follow both. I have thousands of followers on all these different platforms, on the This Week in Startups and on Launch and on the Jason account. I could just stream to all of them, and they all have the alerts set up.
Yep.
And it's different people, so they all get the alert. Oh, Jason's streaming. And then other people get, Launch is streaming. Oh, This Week in Startups is streaming.
Or even another account you don't own.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Like
so I
might stream to NewME's account.
Exactly.
So that's killer. So I could make it like an affiliate thing where I say, hey, TechCrunch, hey, Recode, when you're streaming, I'll give you my password. When I'm streaming, I give you my password.
That's what we did for the Streaming Awards. So we were able to authorize all the 9 different YouTube channels.
Got it.
And so,
but I would have to expose my password or not?
No.
So I do that through your system, like one login.
Correct. We authenticate it.
Sweet Jesus, this is great. Listen, I'm an atheist, but sweet Jesus, that is you you have an entirely new model. See, you did video switching because there was a pain point there. But what's even more interesting this is creating a network of channels that would be like an advertising network. So you say, this is what you should do, is you should say, hey, I'm going to create comedy, I'm going to create technology, and I'm going to create whatever, cooking, and we're going to do live streams, and we all agree that we'll one-for-one stream each other's shows, and then we'll just say live streaming, and you put something, across these channels. So like if there were 5 comedians, you'd be like Kevin Pollak, this person, Hank Azaria, this person, they all, are streaming Kevin's show. Now they're all streaming Hank's show. Now they're all streaming this. Yep. And you could manage it all for them.
Exactly. So if you look at the monitor real quick, so that concept right here where it says channels. So this is a mock-up. This is kind of like a functional mock-up.
Got it.
So one of the cool things that you also got
a view on your Chrome there, and then just put it full screen.
This guy?
Top left. Oh, you can do it that one too. I think both of those do full screen. I just want to see that full, beautiful image there. Okay, great.
So I also live stream 1 Million Cups for the local chapter in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
So
I don't know what that is. What's 1 Million Cups?
1 Million Cups is it's an organization backed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Okay.
Startups, helping startups.
Oh, good.
So same kind of concept. Come up, pitch an idea.
Kauffman Foundation. It's another person I have no relationship with. I didn't get. Oh, Angela's like, I
don't get any love from Kauffman. So.
It's like I got you. I'll go through Angela. Close.
But what we were demonstrating is the ability. So if you're streaming to 3 different platforms,
right?
Redundancy. So if stream A goes down, you don't have to direct your users.
Like Leo Laporte does. So on Leo Laporte's show, he's got all 5 on the bottom. He's like Bit Gravity.
Similar to that.
That's amazing.
So then now, as you're watching this page, your focus is right here.
Exactly, and you could go up and down. All right, listen, this is amazing. Well done. I could go on for another 20 minutes with this because it's cool, but you have a real potential to do something interesting here, and that's one of the great things about entrepreneurship. So congratulations, and when we get back, we'll have one more on This Week in Startups. All right, welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. You can follow me on the Twitter @Jason, and you can follow the show at TWI Startups. And today is our NewME Accelerator Day, and Angela, we've got to make this like a yearly thing as you get your whole classes out the door. Angela Benton was my guest earlier. We talked all about race and the industry and Y Combinator and women in tech and minorities in tech and underrepresented entrepreneurs. And it was a really interesting discussion, but even more interesting is the startups you have brought in me.
Yes.
2 for 2 so far.
And you will be equally as
3 for 3? We're going to go 3 for 3?
Yeah.
All right, because we're 2 for 2 right now. We're 2 for 2. I thought you started with the best one, but then I really think the second one is the best one because that really appeals to me, the streaming stuff. But really, really high quality so far.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, we have Kairos, Kairos? Kairos.
Yeah.
And Brian Brackeen is here with us, and he is the founder and CEO of this facial recognition software. So let's play the video of what you do, and then over the video, it'd be great if you could just explain to us what's happening.
Absolutely.
So go.
We do facial recognition for companies and governments. And so what you'll see here is someone walking up to a time clock application, grabbing the image, going up to the cloud, recognizing who they are, and saying, good morning, Elizabeth. And then she punches in and goes about her day, fully secure. One of the key differentiators, which you see with our stuff.
So now every day I go to work, I have to have my picture taken. What if it's a bad hair day?
It happens. It happens the best of. Not you though. You don't have
I think you're having a bad one. I'm kidding. I'm right behind you on that train. So wait, what does the name Kairos mean?
So Kairos means the most opportune moment in Greek.
Okay, good. So you are playing to the audience right now. Obviously, I'm Greek. So that is the application. That application, or are you making an API so people could build that application?
Exactly, an API so other people can build whatever they want to on top.
And this facial recognition software, where is it from? Did you license this technology or did you build it?
We are in the process of acquiring the company that built it. Yeah.
Really?
The software, correct.
Interesting. Because I know there's many different facial recognition software companies out there, and there's, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some open source software now for this?
OpenCV, open source. We're really
What's the number one open source facial recognition technology?
OpenCV is probably the number
OpenCV.
one. Yeah, OpenCV.
Explain to somebody who doesn't understand how facial recognition technology works, the basics of it.
Very basic. So we're just looking for points on your face, around your eyes, nose, mouth, and measuring the distances between those points.
Got it.
And so those distances are like your fingerprint or your face print.
Right. And how accurate is it?
Our stuff is 99.4% accurate.
Okay. And then what is the most commercial grade, CIA, NSA level stuff?
So interestingly enough, that's exactly who we are. So we do facial recognition for CIA, NSA, FBI, NYPD. And also,
really?
Yeah.
So they'll hit your API to do this.
In their case, we deliver an appliance to them that has our software on it. But yes.
Got it. Oh, you have an appliance.
Oh, yeah.
How old is this company?
So we're 2.5 years old.
Got it.
We bought a company that's 12 years old. So, between those two.
And then you're like refreshing that company and putting a good API around it. They did custom work, I take it?
Exactly. Best practice, good design, make it a little more usable. And we have more enterprise experience. So people like cruise lines and healthcare companies, things of that nature.
And so why would a a cruise line want this?
So in the cruise line space, we're working with two actually. Have you been on a cruise before?
No, I refuse. I refuse. I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
Number one, I don't. I get a little seasick, but I actually got a patch now that helps me when I get seasick. So that's actually kind of water under the bridge, so to speak. Okay. However, I have a fear of being trapped with people from Middle America and/or the South in a confined space. Now, I like people from the South and I like people from Middle America, but I don't like them for a week, and I don't like them on a boat for a week. That's just me. I'm a city kid. So I have seen the pictures of what goes on these boats. And there's too many people, there's too many buffets, and I hate buffets. They're dirty. People are putting their fingers on everything, double dipping, all kinds of stuff I just don't go for. And then there's a very tiny pool.
Yes. And
then everybody's in the tiny pool. And I'm just thinking, and I've had this fear for a long time because I just know how germs spread, and I'm like, this is like one giant petri dish. No offense to your clients who you just lost. But anyway, I am 100% against cruises because I'm like, I want to eat good food. I don't want to be in a confined space. And I don't want a herd of people from Middle America going after the shrimp cocktail. I want to sit at my table. I want the shrimp cocktail brought to me. And then I want my own private, plunge pool, in Hawaii on the thing. It's not my thing.
This may not be for you then.
Totally not for me. However, I do know that some people like it. And you know what I would like to do is I want to do it like Jay-Z does. I want to get the blown out.
Yes.
That's how J. Cal's going to do it.
Yeah.
When J. Cal reaches Jay-Z level, that's how we'll do it. But Jay-Z's not. Trust me. Hova was not on any cruise ships. He said, I'll pause until I can get on to a proper yacht. So I basically am protesting until I can afford a yacht. Or at least to rent one. Yeah. Nobody's buying that nonsense. All right, so what is a cruise line going to do?
For those other fine folks that are that amazing experience you just described.
This is how they get to the buffet line.
Exactly.
Somehow it's related to a buffet. I know it's related to a buffet.
Pictures are taken at the buffet, as a matter of fact.
Is it really?
Taken, all over the ship. When you get on, when you get off, blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
And so you go to this room called the gallery, but it's not in alphabetical order. It's not in stateroom order. No one knows where the pictures are. You have to look through every single picture.
Oh, that's terrible.
To find yourself.
And you don't even have that thing where you're getting off of Splash Mountain and they timed it. We know it's going to take you 3 minutes to get from the exit to and you can wait for your photo.
You don't even have that.
You have to go to the gallery.
Yes.
There's another reason I would never go on a cruise. You've given me yet another reason to avoid cruises. I don't want to go to a gallery and try to find my photo amongst all these other photos of people from Nebraska, Ohio, or
madness.
It's madness.
And yet,
but it's a genius thing to do.
One of our
you can cluster them all.
Well, they make $100 million a year on that.
On the photos?
On photos. Second most profitable thing after liquor on the ship.
And then internet's number 3?
Oh, it's got to be. I don't know what the number is.
And then antibiotics number 4.
But it's a declining business for them because people can't find their photos. And so they're using facial recognition.
That is so genius.
To help them.
How did you come up with that? Did you approach them and say, hey, we can solve this for you? Or they were like, we need a solution?
So 400 enterprise companies have come to us inbound, no outbound, no Google AdWords, no nothing, and said, we want your product or service.
So you're a true entrepreneur. You found this 12-year-old company and then said, I'm going to buy this out. How did you do that? And how'd you find them? And how'd you get the funds together? You're just an independently rich dude or something?
Yeah,
you got some food together? You got some funds together?
Came here to the West Coast, which is what you do. And you're tech and you need to go to the bank, you come to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right? No, this firm is in New Hampshire, Conway, New Hampshire, very small rural place. 3 employees, one marketing person.
Interesting.
And we found that they own the record. They own 2D to 3D facial recognition.
Wow.
So it's a huge
There's a lot of good companies in New Hampshire. Is it Manchester? Where are they?
Conway, which is north of,
Interesting.
Manchester, yeah.
Because I was on the board of Dine, a company in New Hampshire for the last couple of years.
Technical people.
all the Boston people who went to like MIT and Harvard and all that kind of stuff. Like, so now you buy that, you repackage it, and you make it look beautiful. What would you say was the number one thing you got out of the NewME Accelerator?
Wow. I mean,
what's the first thing that comes to mind? Like, hey, this really helped.
Yeah, connections, probably number one. Mentorship is equally number one.
Yeah.
And there's a certain way to look at your. So let me just give a quick example. You could have on a Thursday have a conversation with Ben Horowitz about raising VC, and on the very next Tuesday be talking to someone at Google about designing your product. It's just there's no words for how important that is to an early stage startup.
So you have something you want to say to Angela?
Oh, thank you, Angela. You've changed my life. She knows.
Literally changed your life?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Well, what was we talked, you didn't get to hear the first half of the show. We talked a lot about race and the industry. How did you feel coming into the industry? And because you were an entrepreneur before this as well, or?
I worked at Apple before this.
You worked at Apple?
Yeah, so here.
Okay, so you were in the tech industry.
Yeah, I was in the tech industry.
So how did you feel being a black man in technology? And being, let's be honest here, one of the few, right?
Oh, yeah. We knew the 3 or 4 folks in our building, who they were. And then I maybe see it a little bit differently than maybe some of the other guests. I grew up in Pennsylvania originally, Philadelphia, very Quakerism, very everybody equality.
Sure.
So I never saw it as a hindrance, though I think it does do a lot because we don't have like a lot of legacy things. Like, so my father didn't go to Stanford, or we don't have like legacy admissions and things of that nature. When I did my friends and family round, I couldn't just go to an uncle and say, hey, uncle, grab me
25 dimes here, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's some things you have to do it makes it a little tougher, but I think you learn a lot from that toughness.
It's absolutely true, and I think it's a very healthy approach you have to doing it. And I think, I think this will be a great episode. I think for a lot of people because I think people are very uncomfortable with talking about this issue, right? And we're so far removed from what happened during the civil rights movement that you have a whole generation of people who just don't understand. Never read any of the books or anything like that. They're just completely clueless. And then you have a group of people who lived in the suburbs their whole life, and they avoided people who were different than them, And this industry, I think, has so much potential to be so inclusive, and it's only going to happen if people have honest discussions. And people are really pioneering like you, Angela. I really have to say, the entire industry, not just the black side of the industry, not just black women. Like, I think actually the people who owe you the most gratitude are the people who are at the big companies and who are the investors, because you're going to bring in a whole nother contingent of people with great ideas that are going to make everybody a fuckload of money.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, I'm looking at all 3 of your companies, and you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying black. I'm not saying black women. I'm saying money.
Yes.
I'm like, these companies are going to make money.
Yeah.
I'm going to make money off of these companies. Like, that's what, as an angel investor, I'm looking at like, these are viable businesses that are going to make money. And if these people are being excluded from that, it's like...
You're shortchanging yourself.
You're shortchanging yourselves. Yeah. Exactly. Like, there's a pool of people who can contribute and have ideas and hustle. And if you narrow the field, it's just not going to be as good. Right. I mean, look at...
all 3 founders, not technical.
All 3 founders. And all 3 companies.
Like, they don't code. Yeah.
Right. Well, so that's a huge, huge innovation on your part, Angela, is to remove the bias of you have to code the Y Combinator bias, which is a false bias. I'm going to say it right here. And my friend Sam runs it, and I'm friendly. I don't know, Paul Graham I'm friends with, but we know each other. Yeah. And he's been on the program and been at the events, and I have a lot of respect for him and what he's built. But they inadvertently did something, which is something that I think Sam will unwind over time. And Sam is a really great guy who actually cares deeply on a personal level about diversity for a lot of good reasons. And I think he's changing the organization very quickly. You must have seen these.
Yes. Yep.
And I think a lot of the changes are going to be based on what a lot of your innovations, which is while Techstars and while all these other accelerators, all the new accelerators were like, oh, Techstars and Y Combinator do it this way. We have to do it that way. You are an innovator, Angela. You did it your own way.
Thank you.
And you showed them it doesn't have to be the cookie cutter way.
Yep.
And you know what? They're going to change not because they're going to change because they're limiting their own opportunity.
Yep.
But now how do you figure out which non-technical founders, because technical is a very binary thing. You're either technical or you're not.
Right.
But if you're an entrepreneur and you talk a good game, you could just be a bullshit artist too, right? So how do you know somebody is a
We've
great
seen our
founder?
fair share. Yeah.
Trust me, you're looking at one right here. Like, listen, I hustled my way through this whole thing. What's the difference between somebody who's a BS artist and who's a legitimate non-technical founder in your mind?
So that's the beauty of the platform, because you have an extended period of time where you're working with them and you can figure out if they're a bullshit artist. Instead of taking an application, having an interview, having them in a 12-week program, there's no context.
So you've
you don't
innovated
know.
there as well. See, Y Combinator just gets the application, they pick.
Yeah.
And from what I
We
understand,
stopped taking applications like a year ago.
they basically take an application. After the application, then boom.
They have like I think maybe it's like a 6-step interview process or some very, very intense interview process to help them get to know the founders. What we're saying is, come on our platform. That's the first step to engage. We'll work with you over 3 month or so period. Then you come to San Francisco. We'll work with you there. Then from there, we introduce you to our network of investors. And so Brian can tell you more about. He was actually before we had this new model. He was in the spring 2012 class. So Brian went through the full traditional 12-week program, but was able to raise money. He raised a seed round and Series A round. And so,
Wow. So you're off to the races, kid.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
1.8 million so far.
Genius.
Yeah.
Wow.
The next round would
Who's
be
the highest profile investor in your company right
Mitch Kapoor.
now? Mitch Kapoor is amazing. He's
Yeah.
a friend of mine. We
Yeah.
invest in a lot of things together.
Yeah, it's a great guy.
And he is very focused on this issue as well.
Yep.
And his wife, Frida, spoke at my events, is also very dedicated to this.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we have to wrap up. We've gone on for a very long time, but I'm just so impressed, Angela. It's really
Thank you.
you've done something, and I would tell you if I thought, like, you know me, I mean, you've seen me on the
Yes.
program rip people to shreds. Like, I would honestly say, like, if I was rating these companies and I had to put them, because I always do 1 to 10, and I would score them without an 8, I would say right now, like, your company's obviously like a 9 right now. Like, it's the idea of doing facial recognition as a service and, like, all these applications that are going to make people more money, like, because you're making them more money, they'll pay anything.
We have a $100 million pipeline. Can I get a 10?
No. No. You don't get a 10 for saying I have a pipeline. You get a 10 for tapping into the pipeline and putting all that oil into a big refinery and owning it.
I'll come back.
You have to first pull it in. And then I would say, right behind that, the Joycaster is currently a small idea.
Yeah.
That solves a real problem for a small number of people. But it could lead to something very big.
Yeah, huge potential.
Which to me gives it like, it's a very hard one. It could be 7.5 or 8.5. It's like really on the bubble there. I would have to see the revenue. If it got to like $100,000 a month in recurring revenue, which it might be at, who knows what they're at. Sounds like tens of thousands of dollars per client. So when that hits $100,000 a month in revenue, it's an 8.5. Until they do, it's a 7.5. And the same exact thing for
Can you start?
Can you start? Which, you know, those ideas, like a very pragmatic idea like Can You Start, that only gets it's executed at a 7.5 to an 8.5 level, somewhere in that range. It only gets over that 8 hump when, you know, you have revenue.
Yeah.
So when it hits like, you know, $50,000 a month, then I'd say like, yeah, this is an 8.5 in my like
They're
weird
on their
scoring
way.
system. They're on their way.
Yeah.
So it's still got a little more hustle to go.
Yeah.
But what an amazing group of companies.
Thank you.
I'm truly impressed. I mean, literally, you would, if you did Kairos at Y Combinator Demo Day this year, you literally would have been one of the hottest companies.
Yep.
Wow.
I guarantee you would have been in the top 5 companies. And that's a competitive class of people.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you've got $1 million in or whatever, so you're a little bit further along and you bought that old technology. But like doing this I've never heard of anybody pricing it this way or doing software as a service like API for facial recognition. The sky's the limit for that. People don't even know what they can do with this yet.
Yeah.
And there's so many great applications. I mean, scary ones too. You got a lot of privacy issues.
Yeah. We're mindful of that, actually.
Yeah, you better be. Wow.
I spoke at the Department of Commerce on privacy and facial recognition this year.
Well, what would make the rest of us feel comfortable with all this?
We don't share data amongst customers or government and customers,
Got
number
it.
one. So the FBI is not
So it's firewall between people.
Absolutely. Physically and virtually.
physically and virtually. So
Yes.
you say, hey, this is your cloud, this is your cloud. You plug in your own cloud.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they're doing the API, right? So they just send you the points, you hash it,
Exactly.
and the fingerprint is hashed, and you don't even know what the original photo is. I bet.
They can send us the photo as well, but yes. Yeah.
But they have to send you the photo, I guess, to do it. But then you don't need to keep the photo after, do you?
You don't have to keep it at all.
I mean, they probably do. I mean, that's going to be the issue is how many of the fingerprints are left behind. It's one thing to hash everything, but it's another thing if somebody can find the original store of photos and then start working backwards. That's where things. But I mean, now you have this Google thing where you can, and they've had it for a while, reverse image search, where you can upload something. But does that do facial recognition or not?
No, I don't believe so. No.
Yeah. So that's where it gets sort of interesting is if I was able to do a Calacanis search and then or if I could just hit the Instagram API, because Instagram's doing facial recognition to build your Explore feed, right?
Through Facebook.
Through Facebook.
Yeah.
They have their own facial recognition.
Yeah, they do. They bought a firm called Face.com.
Right. That's right. They did back in the day. What about Twitter? Do they do it or no?
No, I don't think so.
They don't do anything in that. See, that would be incredible. If you do a search for Calacanis, it should know that I'm Jason Calacanis as a verified user, and they should say that is a picture of Jason Calacanis.
Right.
And then when somebody searches for Calacanis, they should pull up other things that match my photo.
You could do that today.
Why wouldn't they do that? It would be so much better for them. Or even if it was like a sporting event, if it's like, this is Michael Jordan, or this is the president, and you search for Obama, then you don't need to have had the photo tagged Obama.
Right.
Or used at Barack Obama. It could just be Obama.
So
Like you would know, you just do the...
Brian at Kairos.
Yeah, Brian at Kairos. I mean, why wouldn't Twitter... I mean, Twitter could enhance the service so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's the thing about facial recognition. It doesn't have to be creepy. If you're doing facial recognition on public photos that people are sharing, it's less scary because they're
public anyway.
I mean, unless I was in the background, I guess. Is there a way to know that somebody's in the background or the foreground?
Yeah, by size of the face is correct.
Right. So you could say, like, hey, listen, if there's more than 20 people in this, we're just going to take the 3 biggest.
We can do that.
And then not go into the background where it's like, oh, yeah, we happen to catch somebody,
photobomb.
walking into the club and behind everybody, like photobomb style.
Exactly.
All right, listen, amazing. Angela, anything you want to say at the end of all this?
Oh, thank you so much for having us on. It
was great.
And for being an early supporter.
Of course. I kind of regret not getting more involved, but I wasn't living here. But now that I'm here, like totally tap into me. Like I'd love to come on your program and meet the students
Yes,
more often.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm here now, so it's a lot easier. I don't have to like travel up here like I was doing all this time. All right. Listen, amazing episode. Your feedback is always welcome. I'm at Jason or jason@inside.com and check out NewMe. I think you're charging too little. I think like what you should, this way I would do it.
We've tested the pricing. We had a higher price.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had a higher price.
And so people come in at $35, no problem, and then you try to upsell them on the other things.
It's a different market. What we've been able to tap into is, this whole different market that no one else is paying attention to. So
right, you want to make it so people don't give up that $35 membership, right? Like, can you just keep people from unplugging that continuing education where they're like, I want to keep my $35 going.
Yeah.
Like, you keep your $35 going or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you want to just like leave it on your credit card because you want to support you and you want to be able to come into the chat room or the message board or whatever it is that makes them want to just drop in.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you all next time. Go see NewMeAccelerator.com and join. Give it a shot for a couple months and see if you like it. All right. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.